Hmm. Hmm. Huh. Hmm. Hmm? Damn, so my audience is basically a direct copy and paste of me. Alright. I know this is supposed to be a One Piece-ish video, and I plan on following through. This isn't a diss to y'all. This metric actually surprised me, because when I look at this metric, I can't help but think that y'all are probably like me, and probably so different in ways I can't even comprehend. But what brought us here across the sea of the internet is a silly little channel. I'm assuming practically all of you guys know what One Piece is, but to the minority, simply put, the story is centered around Luffy, a small kid with a big dream for his era, sail around the entire world and find the legacy of Gold D. Roger, former king of the pirates and one of the most notable people ever in One Piece. 3 years ago, I had endless free time. I watched the show. It was rough getting to the show at first. The idea of 1,000 episodes can get daunting because I'm a completionist. How the hell am I going to muster up 20 days worth of time? Was it really worth it? These are questions I contemplated, and I'm sure you and many others have if you watched or are planning on watching the show. But regardless, we cast our doubts away and press play on one of the longest airing shows ever. When I watched One Piece for the first time, I was captivated by Luffy's personality and his idea of freedom, his ability to dream bigger than anyone else and cement his presence in any scene. Then there's Zoro, the vice captain with unwavering loyalty to Luffy and his promise he made to Kuina back when he was just a child. Of course, we have Sanji too, the guy who can do it all. Cook, fight, flirt, and goon. I feel like a majority, not all, I know, of One Piece's audience like these characters, and that's probably why Oda wrote them this way. But no matter how bad we want to associate ourselves with that character, the truth is only a fraction of people in the world can be superhuman freaks of nature like them. And I don't mean superhuman in their feats of strength, but rather their mental fortitude. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji were the characters I wanted to be like, but in the end, I'm still a pretty regular person. I haven't accomplished anything notable, I'm not super strong or super smart. I'd say I'm slightly above average. I'm a pre-time skip Kobe, and I don't say that to evoke pity or sympathy or empathy. It's just stating facts. But don't get me wrong, pre-time skip Kobe isn't bad. He might seem useless, but he's not. In reality, he's the most relatable character. At the start of the show, Kobe only had one thing that I have, and one thing that probably all of you have. A dream. But for better or for worse, Kobe couldn't act on his dream. In Kobe's case, Alvida was in his way. For me, I'd say my laziness stops me. What stands in your way? In One Piece, Kobe was able to free himself from Alvida's grasp and make his way to the Marines. He started off as nothing more than a chore boy, but he was consistent with the work he was given. Every menial or ordinary task he received evolved into something more important. He went from a chore boy to a Marine, and from a Marine to a Marine officer. Throughout all of that, Kobe followed through on those ordinary tasks he was given, which compiled into greater and eventually extraordinary tasks. Whether you see it from Kobe in One Piece or through people you admire in everyday life, you probably won't be able to get anywhere you want to end up without showing up day in and day out to put in the work for what matters to you. I'd argue that in order to do extraordinary things, you need to be consistent with ordinary tasks first. When you read a book or manga, you don't, at least, or you're not supposed to, read half of it and then take a break and then read some more of it and then forget what you read prior and then have to reread the book. Rather, you read a little bit every day in order to remember what happened prior and understand the story or lesson. It's the same when it comes to exercising. The body will never develop if you exercise and eat healthy for like 5 days and then do whatever you feel like for another 6. You need to be conscious about the decisions you make and be consistent when following through with them. In YouTube or social media, you need to be consistent with your uploads and the quality of them because that's what your audience expects. Otherwise, you could be throwing away potential growth. Oh wait. To obtain something, you must lose or sacrifice something of equal value, and nothing can be created out of nothing. If you know where this quote is from, then you know ball, but that quote really does hold some weight to it. Tying that into my last point, if you want to achieve something, then it's going to require some form of sacrifice. Two of some of my favorite scenes in anime aren't crazy fights, it's characters working their asses off. The first is actually from My Hero Academia, episode 3, Deku training with All Might for the next 9 months after he got his quirk, and the second being Kobe's training arc. The two are similar and capture the same feeling, but I think My Hero did it better. The music is probably what sold it for me, but that's beside the point. Seeing that transformation happen from our perspective is cool. Training arcs on paper are cool, but truthfully, those training arcs can suck depending on how you approach them. More on that in a sec though. On top of that, it's easy to associate yourself with the end product, especially in a montage because the montage itself is only like 3 minutes long. But realistically, those characters sacrifice their sleep, their egos, their social life to get to where they are now. You wanna ask that girl out? Not that I can relate or anything. But you'd probably have to sacrifice your ego and deal with the fact that you might get rejected. You want to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year?
Flashback.
In roughly 1 year, I will have 100,000 subscribers!
End of flashback.
You're probably going to have to sacrifice more hours into YouTube. If you want to become a better person, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things that might seem important, but probably make you better off in the end without them. But that's the thing. It's funny if you think about it. Watching others put in the work is fun to see because you get to see their growth, their transformation. But when it's you and it's not some montage, it's in real time, and that shit is ass. And the worst part is, you don't even realize your own growth because it's slow, but it's happening. Ironically, that's probably what it means to sacrifice, isn't it? Ultimately, no one will understand the sacrifice that you put into something you value. The closest they can get to understanding is the result that you produce from your effort. The late nights, the mindless wandering of whether you achieve your goal or not, it all depends on the sacrifice you put into it. But I'd argue that there's one thing that greatly matters when you sacrifice something: being able to be consistent and showing up day in and day out. And tying into my last point, there is one way to make the sacrifice put in suck less, and that would be to do it with other people. Deku had All Might for those 9 months, and Kobe had Helmeppa for however long they were training for. In competition, a rival, someone to gauge yourself against, is a cheat code. If everyone could do this though, they probably would. However, it's rare to find someone like this, and ironically, it's because it depends on the amount of sacrifice each individual person is willing to put in. People have different things they value, and put in different amounts of sacrifice and effort into those values. It's why I haven't had a set-in-stone study buddy in high school or college, let alone someone for YouTube. How much effort I decide to put into schoolwork could be completely different from someone else. Or with YouTube, my recent upload schedule obviously shows that it looks like I don't care about YouTube. I do. But ultimately, it comes down to how much you want to sacrifice, which is why you need to rely on yourself first. Kobe and Deku couldn't have started their journey without Luffy or All Might. However, if they didn't take the chance to believe in themselves on pursuing their dream, then Luffy might have not decided to help Kobe and left him for dead. All Might could have just given his quirk to someone else. Believing in yourself, relying on yourself, is more than enough to get you through that first hurdle, because that belief in yourself will attract others. It's really silly. At the end of the day, people are attracted to greatness. Why do you think so many people watch sports, listen to popular music, watch YouTubers, or glaze celebrities? It's because subconsciously, they might have already rejected themselves from the idea of being able to do something like that. Kobe genuinely gave up on being a Marine 1.3 seconds after he realized he did not get on a fishing boat. It's funny if you think about it. Kobe's just your average dreamer, and Alvida and our crew are modern society. Kobe wasn't even comfortable to even utter the word Marine without the judgment of others. But because Kobe held hope onto that dream after meeting Luffy, he was able to become who he is now. I think it's tragic that dreamers lose their ability to dream because of the peer pressure society places onto them. But every once in a while, you run into that great person that can push you into the right direction. Don't rule out that people aren't attracted to greatness on a smaller scale, because you can be great in your everyday life and find those people that will help you become even greater, and in turn, you help them. And before you rule out that someone like you doesn't have the potential to do something like that, I'm out here fighting for my spot among those guys. What are you doing? And I don't mean that in a pitiful or empathetic or sympathetic way. Just reflect on it. Just believe in yourself. Like I said before, too many people throw away the potential they've been given, or don't even know they have it because of the subconscious fact that they've dismissed their dreams. They've been surrounded by the wrong type of people, or they aren't stubborn enough. And ultimately, that potential or greatness, whatever you want to call it, goes to waste. Those people eventually become the ones to complain, "Oh, I want to see the change in the world." What good is it if you can't change yourself? Like I said before, you need to learn to be consistent with the small things first before you can achieve anything of notable value. Kobe started off with small things when he was a weak little chore boy, but the consistency and discipline he gained in his work was then applied to more grueling tasks. The next time we saw him in pre-time skip, he was getting up early in the morning and training with Helmeppo. That takes discipline. You can't wake up one day and decide you're going to do 180 in life. I mean, it might be possible, but it certainly doesn't apply to majority of people, let alone me. But it didn't apply to Kobe, and that's why he's relatable.